we are going to make some eggs. I didn't purposely schedule this on the Jewish New Year, but eggs seems to be a very common thing in most Jewish cooking as a sign of new life. So for New Year, sounds kind of cool. So you say Shana Tova for Rosh Hashanah. So
L'Shana Tova, everybody.
And here I want, before we get like really into it, I want to show you these beautiful flowers I got at the farmer's market. Well, first of all, look at all these. It's fall season, so we're picking all the tomatoes from the garden, and so I got a whole bucket of tomatoes. I'm gonna figure out how to do that, and then some. You know, of course, I don't go. Howard only says I need 1 egg for his recipe, but
we are. It
a
turns out
gallon of soup.
Making a tiny bit of soup, and I reminded him that we are feeding Rosh Hashanah dinner. So now you need more than 1 egg.
It's usually about 8 per serving.
So yeah, I mean, I have always been like, a good local egg is worth every penny. Like you crack an egg from the store and you see the pale yellow yolk, and then you see the nice colorful yolk and flavor you get from a good local egg. It's amazing. But sometimes you need food for the soul.
Aha, the birthday girl is here. Happy birthday, Laura.
Feliz de cumpleaños, Laura.
Yes.
Dia de cumpleaños.
Not all of these are edible, but Laura, this part, the green part is actually tarragon, so you can
Edible.
off that. So.
And to those of you joining us on the stream who wish to come and sing happy birthday to the birthday girl, you can join the live class that's happening right now. That's what's being streamed by going to scre.ws/chef-eggs.
And you're writing down the chat.
So
say if you're in the chat already, you're in the Zoom.
So here you go. We're in the chat, some of the stuff we're making. We're going to focus mostly on just making soft-boiled eggs and egg drop soup with Jen and Howard. Our other chef from Iraq was sick, so he can't come. And I will give tidbits on how to take those hard-boiled eggs and make some Scotch eggs, which you basically get a soft-boiled egg and you wrap it in meat and bake it or deep fry it. So all right, back to you, Jen.
Okay, hi, I'm Chef Jennifer, and Chef Jen, and this is Chef Howard. And we're gonna take you through some eggs today, and I'll start. I'm gonna teach you soft-boiled eggs and then hard-boiled eggs in my favorite kid-friendly, attention not required cooking tool, the Instant Pot. So it allows you to have more time to spend with those you love around you and less time slaving over the stove. Because in the end, the eggs are going to turn out beautifully either way. There's no real need to give them a lot of fussing and poking and prodding when there is somebody else you can spend a lot of time fussing and poking and prodding instead.
Oh, with his recipe.
Yeah. So, and then we are going to transition over to Chef Howard. I will be pulling the laptop and turning it around to the rear camera, and then I will be the videographer. And for those people joining on the Instagram live stream, that's when we say goodbye to you.
So one of the cool things using your thing is you're in the living room.
I am in the living room. Yes. The beautiful thing about an Instant Pot is you can cook with it anywhere. In the summer, I take it outside and
there's
my
electricity.
patio becomes the kitchen, and so it doesn't heat up the house. In the winter, I take it wherever it is that I am because I want to be a little warmer, and so I get to warm up with it. Yeah, anywhere there's an electrical outlet, you can cook. And I have my repurposed salsa jar full of water here just to show you that so long as you bring the things you need with you, you can cook anywhere, including, might I add, when you go to Airbnbs and you're staying somewhere with a little bit of a kitchenette, but they don't have a heating element, you don't have to cook everything in the microwave. Just bring your Instant Pot and you can cook like normal, especially if you're used to cooking in the Instant Pot. It will be just like home.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, I catered a spaghetti dinner, and didn't have a kitchen. And so I just used a couple, electronic pressure cookers. I say that because one was Instant Pot and one wasn't. So
I prefer the Instant Pot brand only because it has the network effect. There's a lot of people online who have exactly an Instant Pot, and so they figured out all the timings and the settings for the Instant Pot. Other electronic pressure cooker brands have different pressures at which they cook, and different temperatures at which they cook, and for different lengths of time. And then on top of that, when I have house sat in people's houses that have had non-Instant Pot brand pressure cookers, I cannot say the quality has been as consistent. Every time I've house sat at a house where there is an Instant Pot brand electronic pressure cooker, I can count on those timings always working.
yeah. Do you remember this? Can you tell the story of how the Instant Pot came to be?
Sure. This came from a podcast by, I think, Dell Technologies. And I will try and get a link to go with this story so that you can just listen to it straight from the horse's mouth. It turned out that it was a father who had a slow cooker, and he was responsible for taking his overscheduled kids to their after school activities, but also making dinner. So he had to get his son off the bus and take him to soccer. And he kind of forgot to start the slow cooker. And in the mornings, he kind of forgot to load and start the slow cooker then. And so after buying a lot of fast food and having his spouse not be particularly thrilled at him for the level of nutrition their children were getting, he said, there has to be a better way. There has to be a way that works better with the fact that I'm going to forget to do these things, but I still need to put dinner on the table. And so he created a faster slow cooker by combining existing pressure cooking technology, because everything that's done in the Instant Pot can be done on the stove with a stovetop pressure cooker. But he put a robot sous chef in because he was an automation guy. So there is a computer monitoring pressure, just like you would have to do on the stove, turning up the heat, turning down the heat to keep that pressure in the right zone so that you don't have to. And then when it hits the amount of time that it was supposed to be at pressure, it will turn off for you. So then he could just press boop on the Instant Pot, take his son to soccer, come back home, and there would be food, which wasn't possible with the slow
Well,
cooker.
hopefully he put some food in it. It sounded like he was forgetting to do that with the slow cooker, but.
Well, and you can have a delayed start.
You can have a delayed start on the Instant Pot. You can on the slow cooker as well. But the thing is, a slow cooker, even at high temperature, needs at least 4 hours. And I don't know about you, but kids' soccer games, they do not last that long.
Yeah.
So
I bought mine solely to cook beans originally, and now Fred's probably a little angry at me because I managed for 2 years on this cooking show to bother him every time he said Instant Pot to say no brands talking. And so now we turned it into an infomercial.
Well, the only reason I prefer this brand is just for the quality and consistency and the fact that there are a lot of recipes out there, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. That said, I do like a Ninja Foodie that is an electronic pressure cooker. I like all of them. I even like a manual stovetop pressure cooker. I was taught as a little girl how to use a stovetop pressure cooker. So I have been pressure cooking since I was old enough to be trusted with a stove myself.
Yeah.
And I do appreciate the fact that, because I've done the pressure cooking on the stove, this allows me to take my attention away and still
and
have.
I really like that it frees up counter space. I live in a 300 square foot house, and so I don't have much counter space, and I can literally set it. I can even set it out on my porch if I want. I have a plug out there. So if
I've cooked on a chair, I've cooked on the floor, I've cooked on the porch.
So we're talking soft boiled eggs. Have you?
Yep, I'm going to do soft boiled and then hard boiled.
Have you ever did either of them in the oven? Like when I do lots and lots, like if I'm doing 10 dozen eggs, I will do them in the oven.
Yes. So the goal with the egg is to cook the protein. The white is the albumin, and then also the yolk. You want to cook those, and there's a variety of ways to cook them, and all of them require heat getting to that protein and causing the protein to fold and bend in a new way that counts to our body as cooked. It also happens to eliminate salmonella. Heat can come from many sources. So I have cooked them in boiling water, which is hot. I have cooked them in the oven, which is hot. I have wrapped them in aluminum foil and buried them in a coal bed while camping, which is hot.
Usually though, those ones explode a little bit, but it's okay.
Depends on how you monitor your coals, but again, if you don't want to use a tension, the oven is better than a coal bed. I've cooked them in a pressure cooker, which is hot. I've cooked them in a solar oven, which is, everybody, hot.
It's just,
I mean, there's any way you apply heat to eggs is going to get it
okay,
done.
so have you ever cooked them on a sidewalk? Everybody says, oh, the sidewalk is hot enough to fry an egg.
I
My
have
friend lives in
tried.
Phoenix
It's
and
not
she
cooked.
tried this summer and it was 120 degrees and it didn't work. So
No, the sidewalks, they
now,
don't.
she did
cook
bake
right.
cookies inside the car. She did do that at that same day, but frying the egg, no, never was. So far that's a myth. But
Cookies inside the car is a solar oven, though.
yeah, that's true.
It's a cheap
So,
solar oven. Well, I don't know. That depends.
actually
If you buy the
doing
car to be a
the
solar oven, it's not
pot-
cheap.
The first time I tried to do it, I followed like I was thinking, oh, it's like an oven. I'll just set all the eggs in there and cook them. And then I realized, well, you have to put a little bit of water because it overheats.
Water is a good temperature equalizer and moderator. It can absorb heat, it can release heat, and it can equalize heat. So I know we call them hard-boiled eggs in the oven. They're really roasted eggs if you want to be pedantic, which I do. I am a pedant. I love being pedantic. It's all the same in the end. It's just cooked albumin. So let me walk you through this. Everybody got your pressure cookers?
I do.
Our birthday girl says, no, she does not have her pressure cooker. That's okay. You can just watch and we'll
You
make
have
eggs
a
for you.
pot that, so I have,
Oh
I'm
yeah,
doing
I
it.
have one, but it works with gas, not with electricity.
Oh, you
Yeah.
have one of the stovetop pressure cookers. So I have
Yeah,
one.
that's, I mean, this is
Yeah.
just a stovetop pressure cooker plus somebody else is fussing with it. And the somebody else is a robot.
So I have a stovetop pressure cooker. I'm gonna do it in here and in the Instant Pot to compare them.
Okay, then you will need to know that high pressure for the Instant
Mhm.
Pot is 12 PSI. So when you do your stovetop pressure cooker, you're going to go for 12 PSI. And so then you start timing when it reaches 12 PSI and you keep it at 12 PSI. Low pressure is, I believe, 6 PSI, but don't quote me on that. Do check the internet. This is just coming from memory. I don't do a lot of low pressure cooking in anything really. So step one, take the lid off your pressure cooker because we're no good to anybody if our lid's still on.
And everyone opens a little different, but yeah. It's very satisfying opening the lid.
It sings you a little song, unless you're like me and haven't plugged yours in yet.
All right.
Then we are going to add 1 cup of water. The Instant Pot specifically will not come up to pressure with anything less than 1 cup of water in it. It has a sensor. And the sensor will just prevent it from going. You'll get what's called the dreaded burn notice. It will say burn on it, even if there's nothing to burn. So it does, as a safety feature, require 1 cup of water as a minimum. So we just pour 1 cup of water into the bottom.
Now, if you do have local eggs, I would recommend washing them all. If you're going to use that same water for anything else.
Yes, I was gonna say,
Local
not if you're not
eggs,
using the water,
wash
but
them
if you're
and
gonna
has
use the
a little
water.
bit, like, here's a little bit of, what is it, hay?
And then you're gonna need a steamer rack. So I'm holding up 2 different kinds of steamer rack right now.
Okay, where's
This
that?
one is the one that comes with the Instant Pot and it has cute little handles. It is also known as the trivet. And you can use this. You're just gonna have to get creative about how you stack the eggs on it because my best advice is to put them sideways along this. And then if you buy any of the commercially available add-on packages, you can get a steamer rack like this with holes in it with circles in it for putting the eggs in. And this is the one I prefer to use because I like pre-made solutions. So then you would put your steamer rack into your Instant Pot, but I'm going to keep it out so that I can show you how I stack my eggs. And because I have a dozen eggs and I'm doing both soft
I got
and
my steamer rack down.
I have a dozen eggs, and because I'm doing both soft and hard boiled, I'm only going to do 6 eggs of each. So you take an egg, and you just put it in the circle, and then you would do that for 6. Put your steamer rack in.
Yeah, the first time I did it, I didn't put the rack, I didn't put water. I just put it in and the timer just said, hey, this is too hot, we can't cook.
Hey, Chef Jen, would you do me a favor, since I don't have one of those convenient spiffy, well, I don't have an Instapot, but my daughter does. She doesn't have that egg one. Can you demonstrate how you would stack the eggs in the other rack by chance?
It's a little fussier.
Yeah,
so
that's why I'm
you-
asking.
Here's me trying to do that. You just take it, and there are slots that are apart from each other, and you just lay the eggs sideways in between those slots.
Got it. And it's probably obviously easier to do when it's in the cooker.
And when I'm not having to like turn it at an angle for the
Sure.
camera, yeah. It just,
Okay.
you would just lay it on its side. There is no up, there is no down in the Instant Pot. So which end of the egg you stick, up, down, left, right, it does not matter.
And I
Oh.
mean, you could just put it on the very bottom, but then you'd have like a little burnt mark, right?
What about the little bubble inside the egg that it finishes when the egg is boiled?
We don't have that problem in the
No?
Instant Pot, no, because the bubble is going to be wherever the bubble is, and we just work around it.
Wow.
So I've put my 6 in, and let me see if I can just put this flat on the table and try and angle the camera so that you guys can get a view of what happens with the rack that just comes with the Instant Pot.
And you wouldn't do any more than a single layer?
I have done them in more than a single layer. The internet says don't. So this is what the base steamer rack that comes in. It's already angled, that one.
Oh, that's good.
I'm a
This is
fill the
what the
pot.
base one that comes in the
Overfill the
Instant Pot
pot
looks
person.
like. When
Yeah,
you
I'm
put
gonna
them all in.
overfill
So
the
they're
pot,
sideways.
not
and
fill
then-
them all the way to the top with hard boiled.
Yeah, I filled it all the way to the top. They say don't, but since when am I gonna let
And
the
how
rules
they
define-
turn out okay?
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Everything that happens inside this chamber is going to happen at the same pressure and the same temperature. So there's no, a regular oven near the coil is hot and at the top is not, and that's why if you don't put it in the middle, you have to rotate your pans. None of that happens here.
Excellent.
I mean, the only thing does happen is if that egg is touching the very bottom, you might get a little brown mark there. That's where
That's why you have
want
the
the
trivet.
water.
Yeah,
So
you
it's not on
definitely
the
want the
bottom.
trivet to give it a little gap off the bottom. I will say there is another recipe that does call for a trivet, which is making mashed potatoes. And I just put the mashed potatoes straight on the bottom. I don't use the trivet. That
Yeah.
seems unnecessary. And I've never gotten the dreaded burn notice at all.
I've like done the trivet where I have vegetables in the bottom and I put the trivet and I put the fish or salmon on top of the trivet.
So now I am assigning my trusty, rusty assistant here, Chef Howard, to
Trust.
plug in my Instant Pot.
Oh man, I need one of those people to plug it in. I forget sometimes.
Yeah,
Sous chefs are great.
sous chefs are great.
We can see it says off, just
Yep.
so you're wondering. I can read it.
Wonderful.
All right.
So when your eggs are in, let me know, and I will move on to the next step.
All right, mine's in with the lid on.
Oh, you're ahead of me. I was going to say put the lid on. So let me go ahead and put the
Oh,
lid
my
on.
screen doesn't come on unless the lid's on.
Yep, you have the same Instant Pot I have. So for those watching the live stream or attending the cooking class, I'm cooking with somebody else's Instant Pot and they paid extra for the Super Deluxe model. And the Super Deluxe model has this cool steam diffuser already on the vent side so that it keeps your cabinets all nice and safe and doesn't get rid of the finish, but there are no cabinets. So, and then at home, I just put a tea towel over the vent when I'm letting the steam out and it keeps the cabinets all nice and safe. And it steams my tea towel.
All right.
When you put the lid on, it's what we call a bayonet mount. It doesn't require screwing. It just takes a half a turn.
Yep. So you're going to set it from vent to seal. You're going to set that lid vent from vent to seal because otherwise it will not come up to pressure. There are times where you will leave it on vent for cooking. like when you're using the slow cooker feature, or if you're using the Instant Pot as a steam canner, not to be confused with a pressure canner. A steam canner is the same as a water bath canner in terms of times that it takes and what you can. So just like a water bath canner only needs acidic foods, a steam canner also only needs acidic foods. You will not be able to do meats or straight vegetables in a steam canner, but you can use the Instant Pot as a steam canner. Set it to seal, and then we're going to do pressure cook on high. So pressure cook, we're going to choose high pressure. So custom pressure cook. There's low pressure and high pressure. We want high pressure. And for soft boiled eggs, we're going to go for 5 minutes. That was for 5 minutes. We're going to turn off, keep warm. And then if you have the less expensive Instant Pot like Or does, you leave it alone and it'll start on its own. But if you have the more expensive Instant Pot like this one, you have to actually push the start button.
All right.
And that's it. And then we let it do its thing.
It takes a while to get up to pressure, so don't expect it suddenly to be at pressure.
Yes, the instantness of the Instant Pot is that it is more instant than a slow cooker, not that it is more instant than your microwave. And then we let it do its thing, and when it hits 5 minutes, we will vent it and take out our delicious and beautiful soft-boiled eggs. And I have these delicious.
Now, is 5 minutes the soft boil?
It will be soft boiled. You've got to go for 8 minutes for hard boiled. So because it's going to not take that long, I will go ahead and do the next dozen or half dozen at hard boiled. And for soft boiled eggs, you're going to, my favorite way to eat them, the way I was taught by my uncle who is in England, is to put them in an egg cup.
Yep.
I have one of my own, but this is the ones that they had here. They have chickens. And then you use a demi-tasse spoon, also known as a teeny tiny spoon, and you tap, 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 tap the top, slice off the top of the spoon, and then you scrape out the egg after putting a tiny pinch of delicious coarse-grained salt on it. And you can even, if you are a proper student of my uncle's way of eating soft-boiled eggs, take a nice nice slice of delicious English crusty bread and put on some delicious English butter and sprinkle a little coarse grained salt on that, and then cut it into 1 finger wide strips of buttered bread he calls soldiers, and then dip them in the yolk, because the yolk is going to be of a jelly-like consistency. So it'll do a good dipping, and then you can eat those. I personally am not a fan of how much work that takes, and I just eat the yolk with the spoon because I'm hungry. But
well, how about you just got a slice of bread, put the butter on it, and dump the whole thing on there?
I'll say you can let my Uncle Chris know if you follow his exact directions.
I'm just saying the lazy version.
That's not an English tradition to dump the egg onto the toast.
No, they do cut a hole in the toast and pour the egg in and cook that on the stove. They call it froggies in a hole or toadies in a hole or something in a hole. I've heard all kinds of different, depending on where I am in England, berries in a hole. One person even called it squirrels in a hole, bunny in a hole.
All right.
But if you do happen to eat it the way my uncle prefers to eat it, please, by all means, he does not use the internet. He's kind of doesn't even use the telephone if he can at all help it. Send him a postcard. He loves a good postcard, especially with a toilet or poop on it, that says, hey, I tried the way you eat soft-boiled eggs. It has mattered to my life. It was delicious. And it will make a very old man very happy.
So I was thinking how to be super energy efficient. And if you were on the stovetop, you could soft boil an egg with the hot water, then hard boil an egg with the hot water, then use that same hot water to make poached eggs, and then use that same hot water to make egg drop soup. So you're not wasting hot water.
As I was heating the water up for soft-boiled eggs, because as my delightful Uncle Chris taught me, you don't put the egg into the water when it's cold to make soft-boiled eggs on the stovetop. you put the egg into the water once the water is already boiling, and you pierce the egg to prevent getting that little air bubble that Howard was talking about inside the egg. You pierce both the top and the bottom of the egg. And in England, they sell these lovely contraptions called egg piercers. They stick on they're magnetic, they stick on your fridge, they have a little hole in them, and the bottom is a tiny little nail, and you put your egg on top of the hole and you just push it down into the hole and let the nail have its way with the shell. And you do one side and then the other, and then they have special egg spoons that you gently lower your now pierced egg with into the water.
So, all right, we ready to switch over to egg drop soup?
Do you want to do egg drop soup while we are soft boiling our eggs?
Sure, this will only take 5 minutes. Come on down.
Just
Hi, I'm Howard and I'm doing egg drop soup.
just like it's, what do you call it? Now, egg drop soup, is this something that's made regularly for special occasions?
Oh, it's such a simple dish that you can eat it just as regularly as soft boiled eggs. It's very
Okay,
simple.
just to let
good
you know,
enough.
I've tried to make egg drop soup like a dozen times and I always mess it up. So I'm gonna learn something. It either comes out super runny or I don't know. Anyway, I'm not gonna, there's a texture issue.
Exactly, you hit right on the head. The egg drop soup, as well as many Chinese cuisines, focuses on texture. It's also called Q.
I am switching the camera over to the back camera now. And we will follow Howard into the kitchen.
Yes, watch out for the cat.
Real Housewives
Real housewife.
of North Carolina.
So I got my own eggs.
So it is okay to like, I always thought you were supposed to let the eggs warm up first.
Oh, it doesn't matter the way we make the eggs. So what I learned from experience with living and working with nannies is sometimes children and your family want lunch or dinner ASAP, and you're not even sure how to prepare anything. One of the best things I've ever learned to do is to turn on the water kettle. It starts boiling the water, and you can just leave whatever water is in there. And while it's boiling the water, gives you about 3 or 4 minutes to start prepping your materials.
So I've got the eggs hard boiling in here, so I could take these eggs out and I've got hot water ready.
He says he's got the eggs hard boiling in his hot water, so he's just taking his hard boiled eggs out of his hot water.
Nice. So
I'm
egg
not
drop
really-
soup is in the pan, so you need a pot for your soup. However many bowls of soup you're gonna make is however much water you're gonna need. You're gonna make 3 servings for 3 bowls, 3 bowls of water. That's it.
My Instapot's steaming, I hear it. All right, so I need a broth.
This is his
Broth
Instant Pot.
powder.
Dan, can you hand me those dishes?
So
I'm supposed to turn at 180 so I can see that.
Sure. Hold on, I gotta switch the cameras again. Aha, you can see me, and now you'll be able to see Howard.
Amazing. Just one dish.
Howard, where is your cooking hat?
You walked out of frame.
Sorry. Oh,
So are we just adding veggie broth or bouillon or whatever to? Although I do have this gallon of tomato soup, but I don't know. I don't think tomato soup would be super tasty for egg drop.
no, not exactly. So I already turned on my flame. Before my water boils, I put a little bit in already. Start off high heat. And you start off with soup stock. Usually the easiest way is to use bouillon, which is what I use. And if you're fancy, you use the can of chicken stock into your pot. So that's the first thing that goes in. I personally use this mushroom bouillon soup because we eat vegetarian and we'll keep it vegetarian. Sometimes the chicken soup stock has actual chicken inside. So The nice thing about the chicken stock or the mushroom stock is it already has the MSG inside. I don't know any chicken stock that doesn't. It gives it that nice oriental flavor.
Umami.
Yes, thank you for the words, umami.
I always wondered why the powder or the bouillon was so much more flavorful than my from scratch chicken. And I was just like, you think from scratch chicken broth would be tastier? Now I know. I just read the ingredients. Yes, there's.
While that's heating up on high, next part is you're going to take your starch. You can either use cornstarch or potato starch. And this will control the thickness of the soup. And it has that classic, this is kind of thick without any cream kind of texture. You don't need that much starch for a soup. Just about a spoonful.
So I guess if you, a lot of people have, what is it? Like the dehydrated potato powder, you could even use that.
Yes,
You're not adding it directly to your pot on the stove.
correct. Do not add it directly to the pot on the stove. Put it into a little bowl with a little bit of water, and you're gonna make the starch as thick as you want. Oh, sorry about that. The cat's real curious here.
Alright.
And when you have dissolved all the starch into the sugar, you should have this kind of
Are
water.
you stirring it with a fork or a spoon?
Spoon, fork is fine as long as you get all of it consistent out. Personally, if I
Use
could,
chopsticks.
you can use chopsticks.
There are some in the.
Okay.
Come
And
here, kitty.
Now, are you trying to make it very liquidy or just like a paste?
oh, like anything else, I've learned from a documentary, not too thick and not too thin, not too hot and not too cold, not too spicy and not too watery. You just want it right in the middle, just like Goldilocks. And I found that making it either too thick or too thin, either way, is too extreme. So you just want it to be right in the middle. And at the end, it should look like almond milk, to be honest.
Okay.
And as your water is starting to boil, make sure that all of your soup stock is dissolved, the bouillon or the powder. If it's not, you take a little stir. It's your soup spoon. Thank you. Easy enough. Just make sure that all the bouillon is dissolved.
Honey, why are you making such little soup?
You want
You're gonna
more?
feed me, my mom, and you.
Oh, excuse me.
Fine.
Want more soup? Just extra hot water from the kettle and you're not losing anything right there.
Yeah, if an extra person shows up, just add water.
The hot water kettle is the most amazing thing because even though I just added 3 more cups of water, it's already starting to boil because the water is already hot to start with.
Yeah, I've been meaning to get one of those because I make a lot of tea.
Oh yeah, tea kettle is the best thing to do. And you saw how fast this water is boiling.
Yeah, I have an electric kettle also.
Mm-hmm.
But
Whenever I'm making pasta, I'll do the whole kettle full of water and dump it into the pot because it just seems, it does seem to.
It saves so much time and you don't have to clean it because it's just water.
now I've had a friend from Thailand that they wouldn't drink any water from the tap unless they ran it through the kettle. And then they would leave it in a container with the top off to let the chlorine dissipate.
Yes.
So I don't know, that was just their style.
So once you have your starch that's completely dissolved and there's no chunks anymore,
You might want to just use a portion of that to begin with, or because you've got quite a bit.
That was
No.
only 1 tablespoon.
wow.
Okay.
Don't dump it into the soup. You want to drip it very slowly.
Okay.
And you don't have to do it all at one time. You can slow it down, make sure it doesn't hit the bottom and burn. And you're going to start to see that your stock is thickening. That's not as watery anymore. Personally, at this point, I take a little bit of the soup stock and you kind of gauge where it's at. And you get a good idea of how consistent or thick the final product's going to be, which is something that I enjoy personally because that's impossible with a pressure cooker. And when it's nice like that, you go into the next step, which is preparing your eggs. With 3 people, one person per egg, usually a good idea. Take the same mixing bowl and you put the eggs in.
Are you trying to break them or trying to keep them whole?
Oh, that's the beauty part. So when you mix them, you're gonna have to mix them a little bit. So yeah, when you break them, you can mix them up during the breaking process. And when you beat it, you're not beating it to a meringue consistency. So it's just like everything else, it goes halfway. And depending on how much you're beating the eggs together will determine the size of the flower petals of the egg drop soup. You do want to break all the yolks, definitely, but you don't want it to be completely consistent. When you have it halfway, it will give a texture in the final soup, which is very, very nice. And it won't be just like every single bite the same. So that's really easy, or that looks good.
So yeah, I basically, it's interesting. Yeah, I'm looking at it and it has like 3 or 4 different consistencies.
Oh, yes, yes, that's fine. And then you're waiting for your water to come up to a boil. Since I used a 2-step process, which I use hot water already from the water kettle, my water, as you can see, is already ready to go and it's boiling.
So mine just, yeah, mine's simmering, but.
Yes. So I'm cooking for other people now and they say, oh, I'm hungry right now. And the sooner the dinner gets on the table, the much better. Otherwise, you start snacking on something, filling up on junk food. So in that one panic moment where it says, oh, I gotta make dinner right now, just start that electric kettle and it buys you 3 minutes to think of what's in the fridge, what's left over, what I can put together. And by the time that the water is ready to boil, you have a good idea which one to cook. And you start with hot boiling water. And so you don't have to wait too long for the water to come to a boil.
All right, mine's boiling.
Awesome. So when it boils, you're gonna put the egg drop into the soup, not as slowly as you can. It doesn't have to be amazing drop by drop, but it's just gonna be a little by little.
And we're in the very center, or just dribble it around?
It's gonna be dribbling around just like a hot sundae on an ice cream. You don't want it to be all in one spot because then it's gonna not be able to dissipate in the hot water. And you want to try to, as much as possible, let the water catch up, because as soon as you put the cold egg in the stock, the boiling is gonna slow down a lot.
Yeah, it stopped except right on the very edge, and now everything is simmering.
But
Now it's boiling.
The eggs are flouring. As soon as it hits the water, it starts to cook, and then you get that little mushroom cloud. Like
wow. Yeah, it's doing what, egg drops are supposed to look like.
The texture that you're trying to look for. In the meantime, start to add your spices. White pepper, which is a very classic Chinese flavor. If you ever wonder what that Chinese chicken has in the background, it's white pepper. And this particular one already has a little bit of salt inside, so I don't need to add any salt. Paprika to taste. And of course, unlike the pressure cooker, once you mix it in, you just take a little taste. And if it's too light, add a little bit more. Season to taste.
So are you, when you're stirring it, you just stir it gently so you don't break it up?
Well, my pot's so big, right? You're not like beating the eggs to a pulp.
Oh, well, now at this point, when I stir it, the eggs are solid enough, so. it's not-
Nice. So you're almost there. I'm gonna take my flame down to a simmer.
I hear you trash talking my pressure cooker.
And this is where you take the one mushroom and the one scallion, and you just mince bits, as tiny bits as you can with the mushroom, because they're not expecting any big chunks of anything. And this is just for some mouthfeel. The mushroom doesn't really have any flavor. And anything green for color, like green onions.
Did you put all the eggs in?
What,
How many people do you think we're feeding?
Three eggs.
so I've had it with tofu in it, I've had it with, I
And
had
all
one
that,
where they added cream corn to it.
yes, cream corn is another amazing addition that adds an additional portion at the last minute. If you have someone who definitely is not didn't announce their arrival, says, "Oh, I want an extra bowl of soup," just pour that cream corn inside. It's very rich and plays well with all the other flavors.
So the soft boiled eggs are done. I went and plated one. And I tapped the top.
But do you run it under cold water or you just?
Nope. You just put it right in, you tap the top, and then like I said, you do a little scoop out of the side. You can just scoop off the top and
The
then
demi-tasse spoon.
the demi-tasse spoon in your little egg cup, and there it is.
I guess you couldn't, there's really no easy way to eat it if you don't have that special top. Huh?
Or you can put it in a shot glass. Shot glasses will hold it.
So at this stage, the egg flour is already finished and it will continue to cook. So at this point, I'm going to turn off my flame. And you're
Little
good to-
shot glass. I never thought of it. I was trying to,
Oh, yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
how do I eat this? Do I hold it in one hand while I?
You tap the top to
Tap,
break
tap.
You gotta
the
tap,
shell.
tap, and you don't need a demi-tasse spoon for that. They just have them here, so I thought it'd be fancy. You can use a regular spoon, which is what I used for years, not owning demi-tasse spoons at all.
Oh, yeah, in a little shot glass.
Tap it with the back of the spoon to break the shell.
Here we go.
There you go.
Never done this before.
The back of the spoon, back, not that, not that, the back of the
Up and down,
spoon.
up
Yeah,
and down.
right there.
Oh, right at the top?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Tap,
Yeah.
tap,
I
tap.
always assumed you went around.
No,
and-
no, you don't want it. You just want it to
You want
be
it
able to
to,
peel off in one kind of section.
Oh, okay.
and then you scoop off the broken head you just gave it.
Yes. So,
You can scoop into the egg. You're gonna take some
Oh,
egg
okay,
out.
there we go.
so
And then-
definitely at this point, everybody, if you haven't already turned off your flame, you should turn off the flame and your egg drop soup is ready for final spices. If it's not salty enough, like the really saltiness of the eggs, soy sauce, that also adds a little color and the saltiness to this. And if you're fancy, right before serving, add a little bit of sesame oil. for that savoriness.
Toasted sesame oil,
Ooh.
toasted sesame oil, but
Yeah.
not too much, not too much.
Just a few drops around the top. As the hits the warm soup, it's going to give that sesame flavor just for the scent right before they eat the soup. And you're done with the soup. It's that easy. And as you can see from the soup, as you're serving it out, has a very thick stickiness to it. And that's what you really want from the Chinese style.
Now, do you serve it with anything else or this like?
Yes, for color, either just a bit of green scallions or green bell pepper to make it look nicer. Green, anything goes so well and it's pleasing to the eyes.
So that's a garnish you add after you put the soup in the bowl.
Yes, the garnish after you put the soup in bowl, right before you're ready to serve, you put diced scallions around the top, and then a few drops of sesame oil. You're good. It's that easy.
Okay, Jen, you'll have to send me a picture of your fancy soft-boiled egg holders. But,
Egg cups, egg cups.
all right. Do we have any final questions? Thank you, Howard. I've been trying to make egg drop soup. I was like, this has got to be really easy to make. And
It is so easy to make.
I just found 3 things that I've been doing wrong. So after all that, my soup is still pretty soupy. So I needed.
Oh, that's the beauty part. You can keep adjusting the soup. It's very resilient. At this point, it will even.
Oh, that's so flavorful though.
If you continue to add the thickening starch, it will take, even though your flame's off, it's still very hot and rolling. You can get away with adding a teeny bit more and it'll make it even thicker.
So,
And if you don't have that kind of savoriness come out, more white pepper. And that white pepper will just bring out that kind of meatiness in the soup.
that is really flavorful.
Good job, Howard.
Oh, yeah. Very pleased.
Mm.
There's no equivalent for Q in English or in American restaurants, but I think the closest thing is called mouthfeel that I've seen in a number of reviews.
Yeah, it definitely has this has a texture, and like I've been trying to do it, and I've always, mine's still a little soupy.
That's
But
fine.
it
Next
definitely
time,
has the texture that.
you can add more starch, and that will give it a thicker consistency or thicker mouthfeel.
But all right. Ask Jen if she has any final stuff she wants to talk about.
Anything final you want to talk about, Jen?
No, I think I've given all my tips in the moment.
Laura did ask Howard, how come you're not wearing your chef hat?
He sent it to California.
I didn't think I would be here for this.
So
He
Sorry.
sent both his hat and his mother's hat to his mother because I don't think he realized they were 2 separate hats.
I'll
thank
get
you
it.
both for being on here. And well, sharing the tips, like, you know, you think it's something so simple that you can never learn something new. And that's never the case with me. I always learn something new. So
Make sure you dissolve your starch so it doesn't produce lumps.
yeah. So
Yeah, this is so simple. It's best just to serve it hot. You don't need to like save it. It's so easy.
but I've never made a soft-boiled egg because I can't figure out how to serve it. And I have like 2 shot glasses. So
There
like,
you go.
And
Two
also,
soft-boiled
or the other thing, or when you're doing the spoon thing, you're kind of like, you know, when you get creme brulee and you want to break that nice
Yep.
glassy thing, you're kind of smacking it and it's a bap, and it kind of
Now,
makes
I always, whenever I read the directions, I always thought you'd get the edge of the spoon and crack it around in a circle and then take it
No.
off the cap.
No.
okay.
And so that's what I did originally. And you guys corrected me on that. So that was.
And it's a real fun thing. I mean, it's kind of like an enjoyable thing to do.
Tap, tap, tap.
Tap, tap, tap. So, all right. Any finals, this, that, or the others? It's like, thank you
Thank
so much,
you.
everybody.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Lashana Tova, may
Lashana
everybody
Tova.
have a sweet and healthy new year.
And
And
I
happy birthday,
haven't
Laura.
mentioned the hashtag, but years ago I created a hashtag and I never use it, which is feeding others is love. So
Oh.
And do we have to sing happy birthday to Laura?
just like, I think not on the recording. Just it'll be nice.
The only one I would finish is if you are not cooking with a pressure cooker, taste. Keep tasting as you're cooking and adjusting your spices and consistency. You don't have to like just guess how much spice you need. If it tastes good to you, it's going to taste good to everyone else.
And that's what chefs do. They taste as they cook.
Keep tasting, yes.
Honey, where did the time
And then at the end, you're not hungry.